Are we done? Okay. Welcome to the scoping meeting for the Environmental Impact Report on the 2014 Contra Costa Countywide Transportation Plan. Thank you for attending. I'm Brad Beck. I'm with the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. And I'm here with Chris Ford from the firm of Lanphier Gregory, who are the lead consultants on the environmental analysis. We're going to talk today about the intent of the scoping meeting, about the countywide transportation plan, the approach to the environmental analysis, the issues anticipated, the schedule, and any questions or input that people have. The intent is for the scoping meeting is to talk about the scope of the project. It's required by CEQA guideline section 21083.9. It's an opportunity for the public and for agencies to comment on the scope and the approach for the environmental analysis. I'm going to talk about the countywide plan, and Chris will talk about the approach to the environmental analysis. The countywide transportation plan is mandated by Measure C, which was adopted in 1988, and Measure J, which is its successor, which was adopted in 2004. It was last updated in 2009, and it provides the overall direction for the authority's investments in the transportation system in Contra Costa. The plan outlines our vision for Contra Costa. It sets goals, strategies, has specific projects, and other actions for achieving that vision. The plan is largely based on regional projects proposed and local projects proposed by cities and Contra Costa County, which is a separate governmental agency. It's built on something we call the Comprehensive Transportation Project List, which is an financially unconstrained list of projects. It's about $12 billion now. Variety of projects from freeway interchanges, freeway widenings, extension of BART, local street improvements, arterial improvements, intersection improvements, new bicycle trails, sidewalk, closure of gaps in the sidewalks, operations for transit facilities, ferry terminals. The 2009 Countywide Transportation Plan contained a number of major projects, some of which have been completed and some of which are on the way there. The Caldecott Tunnel, Fourth Bore, is one of those completed projects. Route 4 widening and bypass, the Hercules Transit Center, that one's completed. EBART, both Route 4 and EBART are in the process, as anyone who's gone out Route 4 anytime in the last year knows. 2014 CTP is not going to add any real major projects. There are still some projects that are major that are included. The focus will be shifting, however, to smaller improvements, arterial improvements, freeway interchanges, lots of bicycle and pedestrian improvements. And I'm going to turn it over to Chris, and he will talk about the approach to the EIR.
Hello. So the EIR will be an environmental analysis per the California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA. And what it will look at is that the plan is a single large project. It's not going to look at the individual projects within the plan. All those projects are going to get their own separate project-level environmental review to the extent required under CEQA and or NEPA, which is the National Environmental Protection Act. So the idea really of the EIR is to look at all the regional and cumulative impacts, the effect of, say, 300 small projects that the individual reviews for them may not notice the overall impact in terms of something like traffic from those. So unlike the past EIRs for the past CTP updates, this is going to be a supplemental EIR. The supplemental EIR will only cover minor additions and changes because the idea is that that is what's needed to make the last EIR adequate to apply to this plan. The 2009 CTP, as Brad just described, had bigger projects. It covered more areas than the 2014 proposed plan, and there haven't been very many changes in physical and regulatory settings since then. So the supplemental EIR will be physically smaller, and it's only going to focus on one of 4 categories. A situation in which, due to the plan, the new plan, that there's new significant environmental effects compared to those found in the 2009 EIR. There are substantial increases in the severity of previously identified significant effects. Or there's new information which could result in one or more significant effects that weren't discussed in the last EIR. Or there's mitigation measures which were previously found infeasible, which now could happen. So as a result, the EIR is only going to have new content if there's a significant change in the environmental setting, such that it would affect the impacts of the plan. For instance, if there was like a new species found in a certain area. Same as if there's new environmental resources or issues discovered. Also, if there's projects that have included in this CTP that weren't in the last one, that have different or greater impacts on the environment, particularly if there are new locations which could impact the environment. Just like a regular EIR, the supplemental EIR will go through the regular public review process. It'll include alternatives. And like the last EIR, only focuses on those CTP projects in Contra Costa County. The horizon for the impacts will be the year 2040, and the analysis will use CCTA's travel demand model. You may notice, if you look at the notice of preparation, that it includes Appendix C, which are proposed changes to thresholds of significance. These adjustments are mainly to 3 areas: transportation, air quality, and greenhouse gases, that have had some significant changes in legislation and best practices in terms of how to address those. So we're interested in public feedback or comments on the potential edits to those thresholds of significance. New analysis is expected with just a few of the CEQA issue areas: transportation, as well as other areas that are related to transportation, air quality, energy, noise, greenhouse gases / climate change, with the idea that the other analyses would each get a chapter but may have a relatively minor update that discusses changes in environmental setting, regulatory settings, and impacts. But it would be sort of either a red line or a matter of just discussing changes. The only anticipated significant unavoidable effects would be the same as were found for the 2009 CTP: conversion of agricultural land, alteration of views, and construction noise. So the next steps after this, May 27th, this is the day after Memorial Day, is when all responses on the NOP are due. And then the authority will take the input received into account in terms of how to shape the EIR, what the thresholds of significance should be, what issue areas should be covered. By late July, the hope is that the CTP and draft EIR would be released for a 45-day public review period, and there would be a public meeting to gather comments during that time. The goal is to have a final EIR ready in October for presentations to the Planning Committee and the CCTA Board for certification. And that concludes this presentation on the Notice of Preparation, the EIR.
Thanks, Chris. Any comments, as Chris mentioned, are due to, on the Notice of Preparation, are due to us on May 27th. You can send them to me, Brad Beck, at Contra Costa Transportation Authority. Our address is on the Notice of Preparation, and you can call me with any questions that you have as well. And with that, I'll conclude our presentation and ask for any comments from our attendees, if there are any.
Caltrans will provide its official comment in letter form by the 27th.
Thank you. And since there are no other comments, we will conclude the scoping session. Thank you.